Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jai Shri Gokulananda ki Jai. Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Welcome to today's morning class for the pleasure of their lordships and Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for all joining. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 14, Text 39. The chapter is entitled Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening. Bhavishyatastava Bhadrav Abhadre Jataradama Lokan Sapalam Strimshchandi Muhur Akranda Yasyata Bhavishyatastava Bhadrav Abhadre Jataradama Lokan Sapalam Strimshchandi Muhurakranda Yasyata.
Bhavishyatastava Bhadrav Abhadre Jataradama Lokan Sapalam Strimshchandi
Bhavishyataha
Bhavishyastava Bhadrao
Bhavishyatastava Bhadra
Navadre Jataradamo
Navadre Jataradamo
Lokansa Palam Sinshanti
Sapalam Shrimshtanti
Urakrandaishyata
Bhavishyataha. Vaishnavis. Bhavishyataha will take birth. Tava, your. Abhadrao, two contemptuous sons. Abhadre, O unlucky one. Jataradamo, born of a condemned womb. Lokan, all planets. Sapalan, with their rulers. Trin, three. Chandi, haughty one. Muhu, constantly. Akranda yisyataha, will cause lamentation. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O haughty one, you will have two contemptuous sons, born of your condemned womb. Unlucky women, they will cause constant lamentation to all the three worlds. Contemptuous sons are born of the condemned womb of their mother. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, text 40, it is said, when there is a deliberate negligence of the regulative principles of religious life, the women as a class become polluted, and as a result, they are unwanted children. This is especially true for boys. If the mother is not good, there cannot be good sons. The learned Kashyapa could foresee the character of the sons who would be born of the condemned womb of Diti. The womb was condemned because of the mothers being too sexually inclined, and thus transgressing all the laws and injunctions of the scriptures. In a society where such women are predominant, one should not expect good children. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jaina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Shahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Sacha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantha Radha Kantha Namostate Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Shrabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakal Patarupyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnupadhaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastityade Satarine. Hare Krishna. So we're reading from Canto 3, like we mentioned before, chapter 14, text 39. Before we begin, we'd like to humbly seek the blessings of the assembled Vaishnavas, who are all much more senior, qualified to be sitting in this position than I am. But we will do our best to try to speak something in line with Sri Guru Parampara, which is hopefully pleasing to the devotees. So we're reading in this chapter of the pregnancy of Diti, and I think this has been a well talked about subject matter in terms of what has taken place. So we'll try to share some points that have come to mind in relation to this topic. And just zooming out in terms of the context, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking to Sanatana Goswami, he's speaking about the tattva of the jiva, and he explains Maya Mugdha Jivera Nahi Swata Krishna Gyan Jivera Kripaya Kaila Krishna Veda Puran, that somehow or the other the jiva has turned away, Krishna Bahir Mukha, from Krishna, and as soon as he's turned away, then the seed for enjoyment has seated in the heart of the jiva. The seed for material enjoyment is seated in the heart of the jiva, and therefore pursuing that seed, expressing in that direction, the jiva has become completely bewildered in the material world. Therefore, Maya Mugdha Jivera, he's become completely bewildered and entangled in this material world. This jiva is seated in the Tatashta Shakti, in the sense that we understand from Srila Prabhupada that we are on this marginal potency of the Lord of the three Shaktis, Parasya Shakti, Vivideva, Shuryate, that Krishna has many Shaktis, but of these three which are spoken about, the jiva is sitting on this Tatashta Shakti. And therefore there is this position where one can turn to the Apara Shakti or the Para Shakti. And the interesting thing is that, of course, Krishna's position is different from that. He's always seated in the original position. He never comes underneath that Maya, even though the Mayavadis may claim that the Supreme Personality may come into that position. And therefore, he's always cognizant of the jiva's original position, as well as the conditioned position of the jiva. And it's explained in this verse that Jivara Kripaya Kaila Krishna Veda Purana, that therefore seeing the condition of the jiva, knowing what's going to take place in this Kali Yuga, Krishna arranges that the Vedas and the Puranas are available. They are the form of his mercy within this world for us to take shelter of. And we understand that the text that we are reading, Srimad Bhagavatam, is the highest manifestation of that mercy, because right at the beginning of that Srimad Bhagavatam we hear Dharma Projita Kaitavatra Paramo, that actually starts by kicking out all materialistic religion. What does that mean for us? It means that it will, over the course of the study of Srimad Bhagavatam, break all of our misconceptions about what devotional service, what love of God actually is. And in this third canto, we're hearing about the situation of Diti and how she was trying to express her desires. His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Manor, in one lecture on the third canto of the Bhagavatam, was mentioning that in one sense you can summarize this third canto by the question that was asked by Vidura in the 7th chapter. In the 6th verse, Vidura says to Maitreya, "The Lord, as the Supersoul, is situated in every living being's heart. Why then do the living entities' activities result in misfortune and misery?" And it explained that this summary could be given that the jiva is essentially looking for happiness, is pure by nature, but still somehow or the other when we look around, the jivas are struggling. They're in misfortune, they're in misery, and they're completely in the suffering situation. So in this verse, we're hearing that Diti is being described as "O haughty one." I had to look up the definition of haughty. It didn't come up when I was reading this on previous occasions. But essentially, when you look this up, it comes across as pride. So Diti is being described as "O prideful one." And the question then comes to mind, why is it this way? Why is it that Diti is being described as being prideful in this particular situation? In the 1960s, there was a famous book that came out. I think the author's name was Tom Harris. And the book's name was "I'm Okay, You're Okay." So Srila Prabhupada heard about this because this book was becoming popular. People were speaking about it, the devotees had mentioned it to him. And Srila Prabhupada told the devotees, "You go and tell the people out there that I'm okay, you're not okay." And the reason this is coming up is because the situation of pride is that situation where we think I'm okay as I am. the things that I'm doing, the direction that I'm taking, the past conditionings which are driving every activity in my life are okay to stay exactly as they are. And therefore there is no impetus necessarily to take shelter of Sri Guru, of Srila Prabhupada. There's no emphasis or impetus to take shelter of their lordships. Then the mercy of Jivera Kripai Kaila Krishna Veda Puran doesn't really become necessarily accessible, because our feeling is that we are, as we are, we're okay. And so it's interesting that Kashyapa Muni here refers to Diti as being in this situation. And when we hear this pastime, as we've been listening to over the past few weeks, then what comes across is that Diti has a very natural desire. Right? The sexual desire is in the conditioned living entity very natural. And also she wants a child, which similarly in the female body, in the conditioned situation, may be desirable. And she approaches her husband, which is of course the correct thing to do in that situation. She could have taken many other routes. But still somehow or the other her expression didn't end up being correct. And so in point of this pride, the question is, we didn't choose to take shelter of Sri Guru, we didn't choose to take shelter of Shastra when expressing that natural tendency. Although this book is telling us, I'm okay and you're okay, and although our feeling may be that everything is okay as it is, Sri Uddhavji in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in the 19th chapter, 9th text, he expresses actually the real situation of the jiva within this in this earth. He says, "My dear Lord, for one who is being tormented on the terrible path of birth and death and is constantly overwhelmed by the threefold miseries." Perhaps we see this is more the situation in this material world. Uddhava goes on to say, "I do not see any possible shelter other than your two lotus feet, which are just like a refreshing umbrella that pours down the showers of delicious nectar." So it's explained that this third canto, when we're hearing about the question of Vidura, we're learning in different stories how is it to naturally express our desires in a way that's correct, in a way that's in line with Guru Parampara and in alignment with the Shastra. And so what we hear later in this canto is the pastime of Devahuti and Kadama Muni, and that juxtaposition has also been mentioned in a previous lecture in the last few days, that we see both were pretty similar in terms of the situation, that Devahuti also had a desire to have a child. She also had a similar situation, but she chose a different path to take. She chose the path of menial service to her husband, in that sense considered her guru, and she chose the path of taking shelter of the correct time, place, circumstance, approaching through the perspective of service. So this is the perhaps solution that's being offered in terms of our situation here in this material world, being tormented due to feeling okay, going in the same way that we're already going. That in the morning we're singing Guru Mukha Padma Vakyat Chitete Koriya Aikya, that when will that time come where my natural tendencies and expressions are in alignment with Shastra, in alignment with the words of my spiritual master. If we analyze the situation, Diti knew what to do, right? She came knowing that she was approaching at the wrong time, and therefore when we were listening in the different verses that we've heard before, she took a certain approach to mentioning how she wanted to get this done. It's interesting also that Kashyapa Muni knew what to do, and he also preached to Diti what to do. He also made sure that she was aware that actually right now is not the auspicious time, this would not be the appropriate way to do it. But yet Srila Prabhupada, although these two personalities of course compared to us are very great persons, but Srila Prabhupada, following in how he's speaking in the purports, has mentioned that both of them have succumbed to sex desire. Both of them have succumbed to the lower urges. And therefore the question really comes up in the mind, perhaps, that why is it, for example, that Diti, given that she's the focus here, has such determination for sex life and such determination for begetting a son, that when that time came that Kashyapa Muni told her, now is not the right time, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that just like a prostitute, she held on to the garment of Kashyapa Muni and begged. Why is it that she's so much surrendered to this determination? One of the things that's mentioned within our Shastra, actually Srila Jiva Goswami mentions this point, that the lakshanam of somebody's faith is their surrender. So in the case of Diti, we can understand just from this statement that she has extremely strong faith that this direction that she's taking is going to make her happy, is going to be the thing that fulfills the goal of her life. So in Diti's case, this is what we can see. And this question comes up then, why is it that it's taking place in this way? How does she have such strong faith? So as I was just reflecting on this and thinking about it, the point was coming to mind that actually our previous samskars, they tell us that there's a drop of pleasure available in this direction. This pride that we were referring to earlier is a situation where we think that we don't recognize that actually our previous samskars are pushing every direction that we're taking within this lifetime, and therefore we don't feel the need to take shelter of something higher in the form of guru, sadhu, shastra. Either it's that these previous samskaras show us that there's a drop of pleasure in this one particular direction or activity, or perhaps because the opinions of others are so much present within our minds and so much driving force within our lives, then also these samskaras tell us that satisfying the opinions of others will take place in this way. So for example, in Diti's situation, she was very much agitated because the other co-wives had also had a child. And perhaps there was some Gramya Katha between them where they were telling her, you know, why don't you have this situation also? Why are you not also so fortunate? And so this point is coming to mind that the jiva is naturally anandamaya biosat, looking for pleasure, and therefore if our samskaras, if our natural conditioning is telling us that we should find some pleasure in this direction, isn't it natural that one would follow this agitation? Isn't it natural that one would go in this direction? Therefore the point really comes up that we have to, or maybe we can consider to help ourselves, because sometimes just the understanding of Shastra, just knowing exactly what to do, doesn't really push us, and we can reflect for ourselves situations in our life when that takes place. Maybe we have to search out for deep devotional samskaras. Maybe we have to search out for deep impressions within the heart of devotion, such that they outweigh these deep samskaras from previous situation of seeking for pleasure within the material world, for meaningful experience of Krishna, and an intelligence that's maybe enchanted by the prayojan that Srila Prabhupada presents to us within his literatures. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was counseling Raghunath Das Goswami to not quickly renounce the world, but he actually said to enjoy the world in a befitting way. Srila Prabhupada makes a great point within this purport. He makes the point that one cannot really be renounced until one is actually disgusted with material activity and sees it as a stumbling block to spiritual advancement. And as we were just thinking about this statement, the point that really stands at the center is that this point on spiritual advancement, this is something perhaps to contemplate. How much is there a captivation within, my own heart about spiritual advancement? Because then, if Srila Prabhupada's statement, if we're reading it, we see that if there is a deep desire, a deep captivation, contemplation of spiritual advancement, then naturally one becomes disgusted materially. Then naturally the things that may be present an impediment towards that spiritual advancement are easy to just brush off. When we were in Sri Vrindavan Dham just a few weeks ago, and His Grace Purijan Prabhu there, as well as His Holiness Satyendra Maharaj, have created this Govardhan Retreat Center. And 1.5 or 2 years ago, when we were there on a previous occasion, we got the chance to ask the question of why is it that this has been set up? Why is it that this center has been set up at Govardhan? Why are you trying to bring devotees to a place like this? And the point that His Grace Purijan Prabhu made was that in this movement, we have many people coming in, and we also have many people leaving. We also have many people who are just going through the motions. We have many people who've maybe come in with great enthusiasm, and perhaps that enthusiasm dies down over time. And he said that the purpose of this center, the purpose of bringing devotees here, as you may be aware, they do these retreats, the Holy Name Retreat and the, I think, Govardhan Retreat every November, December, is that we want people to have an experience of Krishna. We want people to have these deep devotional samskaras that are created in this solitude, in this time with Giriraj. And in this way, maybe, those deep devotional samskars will help to outweigh those very heavy, as at least I experience, samskaras of material life. Those very heavy samskaras that we face dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And it's interesting that when Narada is speaking to Vyasa in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he's trying to convince him to pen down this Bhagavatam to increase the glorification of Krishna within the Bhagavatam. He says, "My dear Vyas, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down, somehow or the other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like the others, the fruitive workers, etc. Because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again." This verse is telling us he can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again. So this deep devotional samskar, this deep experience of Krishna, because one has had it, because one has been fortunate to receive it by the mercy of Sri Guru, by the mercy of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, it sits within the consciousnness and it's just as heavy. It's able to combat, it's even more heavy. It's able to combat those material samskaras. And according to this samskar, then there is deep faith, right? That I've had that experience. That yes, Krishna has arranged for me in these different ways, that yes, he's active in my life in these different ways. And according to that faith, then we can offer the heart to Krishna. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, we hear that Shraddhavan Janahe Bhakti Adhikar, that this faith is the qualification for devotional service. So without this faith, without this strong conviction, without that deep devotional samskar, what is the qualification for devotional service? Where does it rest within our heart? And if it doesn't, then where is our experience of Krishna? What will we get from that practice of the process? And so this is, just a point that we were contemplating, that this situation of Diti, although we hear also later about her remorse and the fact that Krishna gave her great mercy in the form of taking the killing of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu to his own hands, as well as through the birth of Prahlad Maharaj, still we see that this situation came about in the first place, that this very, very unfortunate situation came about, and that's the context of the verse that we're reading, that we're hearing, "O haughty one, you will have 2 contemptuous sons born of your condemned womb." And it's interesting that it's the condemned womb, because the point is being made here that it's actually because of the action she took, the womb itself has become condemned. It's not that Diti is condemned, it's not that she is necessarily such a bad person, but because of those deep samskaras that are pushing her in this direction to take this activity, her womb itself has been condemned. And therefore it's only right that over time constant lamentation will come to all the 3 worlds, because your sons will be born and they will be complete demons. So this point is coming, and later in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is also speaking about the verse in the first chapter of Sri Bhagavad Gita, that when there is a deliberate negligence of the regulative principles of religious life, the women as a class become polluted, and as a result, there are unwanted children. And we were thinking how this, very much connects in with what we're speaking about, because due to the psychophysical tendency, as being described here, of the lady to follow in that relationship, if genuine protection is not given in the form of what is actually to be desired, what is actually the direction to take in life, what is actually the artha that we're looking for in this lifetime, then it's natural that havoc will come about. Srila Prabhupada, in a conversation in London in 1973 with John Papworth and Schumacher, he explains what pollution means for himself. He says, our pollution means that one is not God conscious. This is what it means to be polluted. So when we're hearing that the woman as a class becomes polluted, then it means that the conception that is given to such persons is that God consciousness is not necessarily so important. When we see the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 2nd chapter, we get the forecast of what Kali Yuga is going to look like. Right, we get that forecast, and it explains that a man will be known by the money that he earns. This will be his strength. This will be his primary characteristic. Also, it will be explained that that sex life is basically the epitome of the relationship between man and woman. So, if these characteristics, if these goals are presented in this situation, then naturally one becomes polluted. Right? And so this is what is being described here, that the question is, what is it that we're being shown is our protection? if we have those deep devotional samskaras and if we have that intention to create those for others, then we're very much showing that the protection is Krishna. We're very much showing that protection is experience of Krishna. But if we are without that, then what is the protection? It is money, fame, prestige, etc. within this world. This is the alternative in terms of protection. So we're very, very fortunate because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come in Kali Yuga, and he's made it very straightforward for us that Krishna Varnam Chisa Krishna Sango Pangashcha Parshadam Yagyai Sankirtana Praya Yajantihi Sumedasha, that he's come in a different complexion, and he's come with the astra, his weapon of his own personal beauty. It's explained within the purport of that verse that actually his weapon is his beauty, because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He doesn't need anything else. He just needs his original beauty. And he can convince the living entities with that beauty to take up the love of Godhead. But he's given this path, that Yagyai Sankirtana Prayer, that just glorify the holy names of the Lord, take to this Nam Sankirtan in the association of devotees. And this is our hope in this relationship, because this is our pathway to getting these deep devotional samskaras. His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, he mentioned that there is these two types of book distribution, the internal book distribution and the external book distribution. So this internal book distribution is what? It's the Yagyai Sankirtana of the temple or of the homes. It is enlivening each other in devotional service. It is glorifying Krishna with the devotees. For example, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yadidam paramam guhyam mad bhakte shabidashti, that enliven the devotees. That person who teaches the devotees, he's most dear to me. So this is that internal book distribution which will maybe bring about these deep samskaras, these deep devotional samskaras. And the external book distribution, where we go out and over the course of the next few weeks try to share Chaitanya Charitamrita with people out there, or other literatures. In this way, we get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he is Yuga Avatar, and this is the way that we are able to try to please him. If we can do this, and we can take this direction and process, then it's natural that the Shraddha, which we see from Diti, the Shraddha which is devotional in one sense, because we hear later that Kashyapa Muni tells that because you have faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but at the same time we see that due to her actions, perhaps it is what's described as Shraddha Abhas, perhaps it is tinged with material motive. The hope in terms of this Sankirtan Yagya is that hope which will bring that Shraddha from Shraddha Abhas to actually Shuddha Bhakti Shraddha, genuine faith in pure devotional service, genuine faith in pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that being our only motivation. As we hear from Srila Rupa Goswami, Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam Bhaktir Uttama, that this desire to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this is the primary lakshanam, the main indicator of pure devotional service. And so through this Yagyai Sankirtana Prayer, we develop that desire to genuinely please the Supreme Personality of Godhead with his own help. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so merciful, and therefore just by his glorification, just by trying to make some endeavor to try to please him, then this pride which we were touching on previously, where we feel that actually the way that I'm going is totally fine. Like sometimes we go out on the streets and people tell us, no, I'm okay, I'm fine just the way I am. Why do you need to do all these things that you're doing? Life is fine, just enjoy, and die, that's it. But this situation, as we try to please Gauranga Mahaprabhu, we realize that actually life is not necessarily so fine, that these samskaras from previous lifetimes are pushing me in directions which are just causing me to experience the threefold miseries of material nature. But this is because this is just a stage one, in the sense that he shows us more about our situation. But that's not his desire. His desire is to give us more than that. His desire is to really genuinely help us to experience what is devotional service like. Therefore, it's explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Bhakta Bhava Vinunahi, that Mahaprabhu came because without having the position of a devotee, he couldn't experience how sweet Krishna was. So this position of the devotee is so amazing because one can actually genuinely have experience. And this is the thing that Mahaprabhu wants to give us. He wants to give us that opportunity to genuinely experience Krishna. But before doing that, one has to recognize what's pushing them in terms of their actions now and become willing, become open to the impetus that I must put aside my previous considerations, I must put aside these things which are driving me, and perhaps just accept upon my head the instructions of Srimad Bhagavatam, the instructions of Sri Guru. Jai Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Ki Jai, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki Jai, Shri Shri Gaura Nitai Ki Jai. And by putting aside these considerations, then Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakti Sanevas Janame Janame Hoye Abhilas, I maybe develop the desire to just reside within the association of the Vaishnavas and to serve their lotus feet. Because what other hope is there for this haughtiness than this service of the Vaishnavas? What other hope is there for this prideful nature of thinking that we are okay than being in the association of those who have actually realized that no, life's only goal is Krishna Eka Sharanam. Of the 26 qualities of the devotee, it's explained that this is the primary quality, Krishna Eka Sharanam, that Krishna is my only shelter. And as soon as one accepts this, isn't it only natural that anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam, that one will naturally give up those things which are not favorable and naturally take on those things which are favorable. When one comes to this position of understanding this, then it's only natural that one will, when we're hearing here from Diti, she would have naturally given it up. She would have naturally said, okay, actually, yeah, this is not maybe the right thing to do at this point in time. But because of this lack of the mercy of the Vaishnavas in the life, and what that really means is a lack of opening ourselves up to that mercy, then this thought didn't necessarily come within the mind. So this point is just coming there that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is really this hope for overcoming this nature of thinking that everything is okay the way that it is, and by taking shelter of his Sankirtan movement, by glorifying the Vaishnavas, by glorifying the holy name and the deities. It's interesting in this verse, Yagyai Sankirtana Prayer, we've heard two understandings given to this word prayer. It's explained prayer means that not always or mostly, and therefore this Sankirtan Yagya needs to be done mostly, and then there is also some deity worship, there's also some of the other processes that we take. And the other understanding that was given is that it also means the wider remit, meaning that it's not just Nam Sankirtan, but it's also the fact that the deities, when they're dressed wonderfully, the devotees come and they see and they say, wow, Krishna is so amazing, so this is Sankirtan. Or when the prasadam is served so wonderfully by the devotees, then the visitors who come here, they say, wow, those Hare Krishnas are so wonderful, so this is Sankirtan, because we're encouraging others to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this hope is there for us in this Kali Yuga, that Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement is going on, and it's just a question of whether we want to participate in it. And the situation of these heavy samskaras, the situation of us being pushed in so many directions by our previous conditioning, it has its hope within this Sankirtan movement. Because otherwise, what hope is there, right? In Kashyapa Muni's situation, he's so amazing. Look, he could see into the future. It says the learned Kashyapa could foresee the character of the sons who were born and condemned of the womb of Diti. He was so powerful, he was so realized through his yogic practices that he could actually see what would be the situation here. But still, Srila Prabhupada comments in a previous purport that he succumbed to sex desire. So even at that stage, and we hear many examples within Srimad Bhagavatam and other literatures, even at those stages of great realization, still these previous samskaras are pushing the jiva completely down into material ignorance. But Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement is such that just by those impressions of trying to share the mercy with others, because this world is created for no other reason other than for people to go back to Godhead. There's no other reason for this existence other than for people to have the opportunity to go back to Godhead. If we become assistants in that movement, if we become assistants in trying to just share this Krishna consciousness, then our hope is that Mahaprabhu, it's explained that perhaps Mahaprabhu, even if we can't remember at the time of death, Mahaprabhu will come and he will enter enter into the mind by force. My own spiritual master, Srila Shiva Maharaj, mentioned this point in a Sankirtan lecture maybe 2 years ago, that maybe he will come. Maybe he will come by force at that time and enter into the mind and help us to remember Krishna. Because we can see how heavy these samskaras are, we can see how difficult this situation is in terms of trying to remember Krishna and trying to follow. But those personalities who follow naturally, those personalities who are fully realized and whose behavior is a natural expression of Krishna consciousness, we hear about those personalities in Srimad Bhagavatam. And therefore, just by meditating on them and practicing in Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement, then maybe we get the chance to actually follow in their footsteps with genuine feeling, with genuine expression. So these are some reflections on Srimad Bhagavatam, and maybe if there are any comments, concerns, questions, criticisms, please feel free to raise them.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. It's interesting that Diti first, she's very concerned. Let Shiva doesn't kill my kids. Let them survive. But then just a few years after, she's very happy that they will be killed. So let them not be killed, but let them be killed. So this just kind of shows that it's all big drama, such a drama that Diti was not lusty, Kashyapa was not weak, Shiva was not angry. They were just playing perfectly their roles. Perfectly, you know. Because Lord Vishnu is meant to kill them 3 times. And in one sense, this takes away this drama. If you, I just have glimpses of that, then you cannot enjoy this play. But everything is written so amazingly that when you read and read purports and comment of acharyas, which going back and forth, moral reasons, spiritual points, they take inside, and you get sworn into that transcendental illusion that you see as a real, but it's just big play, nothing else. It's incredible, just kind of thoughts about. We have some reflection also on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah, it's hard for us because we know that they're great personalities and we know that they're just taking part in the plan of the Lord. At the same time, Srila Prabhupada is also commenting within the purports that they're falling to the disease of lust, that they are succumbing to the nature of the conditioned mind, etc. And so I guess in our own situation, or the direction that we took to reflect on, is just that they are an example for us in the sense we look at their behavior for what it is, and see that actually this nature is also within myself. That this haughtiness, this tendency to think I'm okay as I am, that I'm going to follow my desire without thinking what's the right way to express that desire, is within our own hearts. And therefore we think about how this Srimad Bhagavatam is helping us to unravel this. It's so amazing because Srimad Bhagavatam is systematically, through the course of those 12 cantos, removing these anarthas one by one from our heart, initially by showing us that they exist. And so in this case we're maybe being faced with the situation where this tendency to just go ahead without consultation, to just think that my mind and intelligence is taking me in the right place, is being shown. But thank you for your reflections, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, thank you. You mentioned a couple of meanings of the word prayar. Just wondering, did you get it from a book or from a devotee?
Yeah, so the second meaning in terms of the wider sort of meaning, my own spiritual master, Srila Shiva Maharaj, mentioned this on just this Saturday. Actually, he was giving, it's on his podcast site, it's just a maybe 15-minute or 10-minute lecture on Panchatattva, but I think it's called Happy Birthday Nimai Sundar because he was giving at a birthday party or a birthday celebration gathering. And I think the first meaning that I've given is the general understanding that we get. I don't remember if it's actually in that verse itself, but generally when this is spoken about, people mention this, that prayer means that Sankirtan most of the time. Like we hear Nashtaprayeshu, Abhadreshu, that almost all the anarthas are removed. So this prior sense of like almost all. So in the same way, almost always, this Sankirtan is to be practiced in that way.
You know, you just brought up another point there. You know, there's Nashtaprayeshu, Abhadreshu. Why is that prior? It's like it almost sounds like the process doesn't quite work, or something. What's the reason behind that?
Prabhu, you're more qualified to answer these questions than I am. So our understanding, Srila Prabhupada in that purport gives the point that 75% or 3/4 of anarthas are removed, because this verse describes the stage of Nishta. At the stage of Nishta, we understand, like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Madhurya Kadambini, he mentions different definitions of removed, fully removed, completely removed, absolutely removed, like this. And so, although we understand that through the hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, that full process will take place, that specific verse, at least according to my understanding and what we've heard also from Vaishnavas, refers particularly to the stage of Nishta, which is that stage where almost all those anarthas are removed. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Nishanta Prabhu, for your wonderful class. In the beginning of your class, you were speaking about these positive samskaras that we should try and get. Have you got any advice on how we can have more of these positive samskaras to push out the negative ones that have been accumulating?
Yayatamam prapadyante tam stateva bhajami. What comes to mind first is that we have to deeply desire it. Krishna's telling us in so many ways that his process, his way of working is that what do you want in this world? What are we looking for in this world? And so if we start by just that fact of I deeply desire Krishna, to have these devotional samskars, I deeply desire to put myself in situations where I may have to do some tapasya, I may have to do things that I don't actually want to do, but I want to experience you, then maybe he gets an indication that yes, this Nischanta Das actually wants to have a relationship with me. He actually wants to maybe have a situation where these samskars are sitting on his heart. It's interesting because if you look at the material nature versus yogamaya, in both situations one is basically impelled to act in a certain way. When one takes shelter of the internal potency of the Lord, like we see in Vrindavan, Mother Yashoda, she sees Krishna as being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but then Yogamaya acts and she's impelled to just love him as if she's his child. And so the question is, do we want to give up that control in one sense? Do we want to give up this this position of that we've given to these Mayik samskaras, where they drive the way that we're acting? Because it's uncomfortable, no? When we come into devotional service and the further we go into the process, or we've tried to go into the process, it's uncomfortable to give up that control. It's uncomfortable to actually surrender, right? But this is the process that we're being given, and this is the way that Krishna can give his full mercy, because in another way, Krishna himself does this. We understand that Krishna gives up control in Vrindavan, right? When Krishna is entering into Vrindavan, after killing, I think it's Dantavakra, and it's explained that he puts down his crown, he puts down his gear from Dwarka, and he enters into Vrindavan. And when he enters into Vrindavan, what is he doing? He's giving up control to Yogamaya. Because in Vrindavan, love rules. In Vrindavan, it's not about Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's about what's best for loving pastimes. And this is Yogamaya's service. And so perhaps the other point that's just coming to mind is what first we desire it, and then we're willing, because we're desiring it, to take on steps that we otherwise wouldn't want to, but we're inspired by the fact that Krishna himself is also giving up control to love, is also surrendering in these ways, because he has strong faith in the love of his devotees. And so maybe the third point that just comes there is we take advantage of our strong faith in the spiritual master, or in one particular Vaishnava, or some few Vaishnavas, and we give them that situation. We open our hearts to that particular person, and maybe then Krishna can work through them to impart these deep devotional samskaras. We understand from Chaitanya Charitamrita that it's not coming to my mind, but devotion is born in the association of a devotee, right? Krishna Bhakti Janma Mula Haya Sadhu Sang. So that this devotional sentiment coming from these impressions is actually found within the association of Vaishnavas. And maybe that's also something that we can try to see, that how do we spend time with those people who, pass by London because we're in a very fortunate place of being central, or how do we go out and seek them out in the dhams so that we can serve them, and maybe just by serving them some impressions will come into the heart that actually, yes, devotional service is the way that I want to live my life and the direction that I want to take, in a very deep way, not just in the initial way that we say it when we first come into the process. Hopefully that.
Thank you.
I'm conscious it's 8:30. Are we allowed to keep going? Or you're more of a boss than I am, so.
But thanks for the class.
Thank you.
Just wanted to ask more questions on samskaras. So, in what makes a samskara deep? Because we all experience some samskaras, but it has different effects on different people. So, is there something more than samskara that evokes something deeper to go in a certain direction towards devotional service? And also, if devotional service is not an artificial imposition on the mind, so so how does samskara gonna? If it's not an artificial imposition, then there must be something else deeper. What is that?
So, just to understand the question, it's what makes a devotional samskara deep? And this point about artificial imposition, maybe you could just not understanding fully.
Forget that part. But just the samskaras, is there something more than samskaras that causes us to act?
Mm-hmm. Maybe other devotees will also have some thoughts that they can share. I'll just share what comes to our mind naturally. It even connects nicely with what Rasikaraya Prabhu was saying, what makes this samskara deep. Personally, our understanding, and I think if we look at Akrura when he's going to Vrindavan, we see that he's deeply praying. He's deeply thinking about the experience he's just about to have. He's thinking that when I reach Vrindavan, I will get off the chariot and I'll offer my obeisances to my Lord, and I will take the dust of the lotus feet of my Lord and I'll place them upon my head. And so one understanding that's maybe given is that the idea is, how deeply do we desire it? How deeply are we meditating on these experiences that we're about to have in devotional service? How much are we contemplating those both before the experiences take place in devotional service and then after? I know His Holiness Keshav Maharaj is a big proponent of journaling, for example, and other devotees also. Not that we have to necessarily journal, but this question of how much are we remembering the impressions that we had, how much are we giving time, attention, and energy to those impressions that we've had, and how much are we therefore nurturing them. For example, Srila Prabhupada wanted that the devotees go to Vrindavan every year for 1 week, 2 weeks, or to go to the Dham in general, Mayapur, etc. Why is that? Because if one does that consistently over time, let's say I go every single year, then it's only natural that I have deeper impressions of that particular place. And how can I increase the depth of those impressions? When I'm back here, I'm remembering those impressions that I had when I was there. So maybe, for example, every day when I'm chanting, I'm remembering Giriraj Govardhan, I'm remembering Radhakund, I'm remembering these significant places. So before going, I'm thinking about them as Akrura was on the way to Vrindavan. Whilst there, I'm seeing how I can perhaps deepen by doing the activity multiple times or being in that situation again and again. And then I'm valuing them basically by continuing to revisit them within my memory. And if you think about it in a very simple way, what it just shows is that we're telling Krishna, I value the experience that you gave me. You gave me a chance to be in the Dham, or you gave me a chance to be with a certain devotee that's very senior, etc. And I'm going to keep thinking about it day after day and remember that mercy that you basically brought to me. And so in that verse that we shared from Narada Muni, he says that because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again, our Vaidhi Bhakti process is whereby we bring the mind to remembering those things, and then naturally they will remember those things. So perhaps that's one path. Thank you so much. So I think we should probably close there. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Radha Gokulananda, Siddharam Lakshman Hanuman Gaur Nitai Ki Jai, Gaur Bhakti.